Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation from the board. I'm Rich Baldwin, current president of the Paradise Canyon HOA. We truly live in a great community located in the heart of St. George with beautiful surrounding views, access to trail systems, and lots of community amenities and benefits including landscaping maintenance, clubhouse with gym, 2 outdoor and 1 indoor pool with homeowners insurance all included in our HOA dues. Our overall benefit is at least double what we pay in dues. Let's just do the math for a second. If we had to pay $30 a week for landscape maintenance, which would actually be really cheap, about $100 a month for family gym membership and pool access, and about $150 a month for homeowners insurance, conservatively, that adds up to about $370 a month, and that doesn't even account for the additional costs associated with tree trimming, sprinkler repair, and access to an event venue the size of our clubhouse. We really do have it made here in Paradise Canyon. I'm going to turn the time over now to Paula, and she'll go over our quarterly review and give you an update on the finances for Paradise Canyon.
Let's start off with our 2025 budget, shown in the slide with a view of the monthly cost per lot. This is a reflection of a balanced operating budget with a monthly contribution to the reserve. This budget was based on actual costs from 2024 combined with projected costs for 2025. I like this view because it shows you, as the homeowner, where every penny of your monthly dues go. Our operating cash is shown in the top box with a little over $108,000 as of the end of the first quarter. The reserves are shown in the next 2 boxes with a little over $216,000 of our reserve funds invested in CDs. They earn about 5%. The remainder of the reserve fund is in a money market account, which also earns some interest. As you can see, as of the end of the first quarter, our cash was just over $500,000. Although that sounds like a lot of money, when we consider upcoming expenses, it's not enough. Our planned income from expected dues was over $176,000, with actuals coming in just under $175,000. This shortfall is due to delinquent dues, which is constantly being addressed by the management group. This is actually very healthy, with over 99% of the expected dues collected in Q1. This chart shows the overall view of where your dues were applied during the first quarter. Please note that a large expense, the road crack seal, was completed in Q1. The recommended time frame to do this work is during the winter months, and therefore the board had that work done in Q1. The Pareto chart shows expenses with landscaping being the highest category of operating expenses for Q1, and insurance close behind. Landscaping expenses continue to increase due to specifically the repairs to the irrigation systems throughout the community. As our community continues to age, these repairs will most likely continue to climb. The board considered shifting this expense to the individual homeowners, but considering the makeup of the community, we determined that this benefit was critical to keep our community looking its best. Insurance is another expense that continues to increase each year, unfortunately. Due to the wildfires in California and across the country, insurance companies are increasing premiums to cover those costs. In addition, some insurance carriers are no longer covering HOAs. These 2 factors have impacted the competitive nature of the insurance for our HOA. These expenses are followed by pool expenses, utilities, etc., etc. The 2 bars on the right side of the page show capital expenses, which includes the road crack seal, as well as the contribution to the reserve fund. We'll talk about that more in a moment. This chart shows a different way to look at our Q1 expense, with the largest expense, again landscaping and insurance, and the road crack seal, accounting for over 54% of the total expenses. In addition, 25% was transferred to the reserve fund, and that happens every single month. Please note that years ago, a promise was made to the Paradise Canyon homeowners that an amount equal to or greater than the cable bill would be added to the reserves each month. As a result of the current board upholding that promise, our reserves have increased 52% in the last 2 years, from $222,000 to $389,000 at the end of 2024. We have continued to add to that reserve in 2025 with a current balance of over $400K. It also helps having most of these funds in high-yield CDs. In order to better understand the finances of our HOA, I wanted to point out the difference between operating expenses and reserve expenses. Operating expenses cover day-to-day maintenance of our community, including basic repairs, utilities, and landscaping. Reserve expenses are generally capital expenses, which are longer term in nature and include such things as roof replacements, pool resurfacing, roads, and furnishings for the clubhouse, including gym equipment. Last year, we had a reserve study conducted, which spelled out all the types of things that fall under the umbrella of long-term or capital expenses. This report has been very helpful in giving the board a roadmap of when to expect these types of expenses. The following slides spell this out. The reserve study provided the guidelines shown on the left side of this slide. These industry standard guidelines are used by people like real estate agents, insurance companies, and loan officers in evaluating the various HOAs to determine their financial health. Under 30% of being fully funded shows an HOA is in a weak financial position. Between 31 and 69% of being fully funded shows that the same HOA could be in a fair financial position. Between 70 and 99% of being fully funded shows an HOA in a strong financial position. And of course, 100% funded is the ideal position. Why is this important? The financial position shows the HOA's ability to keep up with the maintenance of the community and still have a safety net for emergency or unanticipated repairs. Keeping the community well maintained makes it more attractive and also can boost the home values by as much as 5 to 12%. It also demonstrates the fiscal responsibility of the community and mitigates risks associated with deferred repairs. This can impact insurance premiums and mortgage applications for interested buyers. Also, this can reduce the risk of having to impose mandatory assessments in order to conduct repairs or other maintenance. This next slide shows the actual capital repairs that were made in 2024, as well as the planned repairs for this year and next. The board is using the reserve study to determine what capital expenses should be planned for, but there can also be some unanticipated repairs needed. Pool equipment is the best example of those kinds of repairs. Although we have that roadmap from the reserve study that shows when we should replace things like pool heaters, pool filters, etc., sometimes our aging equipment does not last as long as anticipated. When something breaks, we need to be agile enough to fund the needed repairs. The largest repairs needed in 2025 are to maintain our roads. Some might ask, why can't the City of St. George maintain our roads? Well, when our community was built nearly 25 years ago, the developer negotiated with the city to make Paradise Canyon roads private. This allowed the roads to be made narrower than city streets and also allowed more houses to be built in the community. As a result of that, the HOA is now responsible for maintaining and repairing all of our roads. The last time we conducted a full repair of our roads, including the top seal coat, was in 2015, nearly 10 years ago. And we are definitely seeing the wear and tear on our roads since this work is now way overdue. The reserve study, in fact, says that the roads should be repaired every 6 years. This next slide reflects our reserve projections through the year 2029. The data of what constitutes fully funded reserve, again, comes from the reserve study. As you can see, we have quite a substantial shortfall every year from 2023 all the way through 2029. In fact, our current year shows that we will be taking a big step backwards due to the need of repairing the roads. This keeps us in the area of being only 34% funded as of the end of this year, 2025, which is in the low fair classification and dangerously close to the weak classification. Even with increasing the dues each year for the next 4 years, we will not get up to the strong position of being 70% funded. This chart also shows the contributions to the reserve each year, as well as the expected expenses according to the reserve study. The bottom line is that if we continue as projected in this slide, we will not only have to increase our dues every year, but will also risk having increased expenses due to poor financial health and more costly deferred maintenance. Most HOAs do not have 100% fully funded reserves, but the board thought a realistic goal would be to at least get us to 70% funded, which would put us into a strong classification. This slide shows a realistic picture of where we will be at the end of this decade. But as noted in the previous slides, this would require us to raise the dues 5% every year with a $250 per month dues by 2029. Even with that, we will miss our goal of 70% by a significant amount. This is impacted by the required road maintenance and repair that is planned for 2025. So, the board has looked at some other options that will help fund our reserve. I'll turn the time back to Rich now for that explanation.
I'd like to go over a couple of our board initiatives for the year 2025. These are our goals to help us maintain a beautiful community as well as provide the maximum benefit to our fellow homeowners. One of the most important things that we do as board members is to make sure the lifestyle needs are met within the community. This means keeping up with the pools, roads, landscaping maintenance, walls, and everything else. This is a responsibility that we are honored to undertake. In recent years, we have found lack of funding for road maintenance and retaining walls may be a problem for us in the future. We can resolve these issues with your help. By doing so, our property should remain more desirable and valuable. I'm sure everyone can agree that their property value is important for many reasons. The initiatives that we put forth this year are as follows. Number 1, require buyers to contribute a one-time reinvestment fee at closing of 0.5% of their purchase price. To put in perspective, this would be about $2,500 on a $500,000 home. The board plans to use these funds to assist with the walls, and roads more specifically. Each year that we don't implement this, we are likely losing between $25,000 and $30,000 in additional revenue. Over the last 5 years, had we implemented this, we would have collected roughly $180,000. Initiative number 2, a one-time assessment for road maintenance, maybe another later. That way we won't need to take the money out of the reserves to take care of those road maintenance issues. This would help us to get our reserves closer to the 100% mark over the next few years. Right now we're sitting at about 30%. This is considered low to moderate. You might ask yourself, why haven't we been able to implement these initiatives in the past? Well, it really comes down to the number of votes that are cast. We are required to have at least 67% affirmative vote of the total residents within the community to pass. The majority of the people who have voted have been in favor of this amendment. Unfortunately, not enough people vote. Some community members may need to better understand why voting for this initiative is important. I'll address the reasons why not voting for this is kind of a problem. To begin, I'll provide some historical data. Over the past few years, since I've been on the board, we've had to make the maximum increase to the monthly HOA dues. We are currently at about $207 a month, up from somewhere in the $180 range before I got on the board. Some of this has to do with the increasing amount of inflation as a result of the 2020 pandemic. This caused costs to rise significantly more than it typically would have during that time. Many of the costs were associated with utilities, materials, and labor, and then they've been driven up to the point where it became difficult for us to manage without an increase. As a side note, this would have been difficult for any previous boards to foresee. Had we taken some advanced steps earlier on in the community and just incrementally increase these dues, maybe $3-4 a month each year, we wouldn't have had to increase it as much as we had to increase it at this time. In addition, we would have had a much greater reserve. I believe the focus of previous boards was to keep the cost as low as possible. I do understand that, and I'd also like to see that happen again. This is why we have the 0.5% in reinvestment fee and the $500 assessment initiative. This will help us to keep the dues from raging because our only remedy at this stage is to continue to raise the dues to the maximum amount over the next few years. If we continue on this course, we'll begin to see our dues increase upwards of $300 a month. As a real estate professional, it does concern me when I see homes priced at about $70,000 apart equal in overall value as it pertains to square footage, overall appearance, and location. For example, when I find a home listed at about $330,000 similar to a home at about $400,000, it's initially very exciting. But when my clients discover that their HOA dues are over $300 a month, they tend to recoil a little bit. Nobody wants to be saddled with a significantly high HOA due. They may also worry about what it might become in the future. So what does this mean? Increasing HOA dues significantly over time may result in a $70,000 devaluation per residence. So if you're thinking that saving a few $100s by not voting on these initiatives, think again, because you may end up paying a lot more for that decision. Not only you, but your neighbors. Remember, a stitch in time saves 9. Let's not trip over thousands of dollars to pick up pennies. On occasion, I sometimes speak to community members of advanced age who feel like they'll live in that home until they pass away, and then it's their family's problem. Wouldn't you like to give a better gift to them? A gift of increased value and equity in the home that you give them? Please vote in the affirmative. Also, reach out to your neighbors and ask them to vote in affirmative. Help them watch this video so they understand why it matters. On behalf of the Paradise Canyon board members, I want to thank you for voting. You have a great day.